11. Finally complete. The 49ers just had their second to last training camp practice of the year. Tomorrow is the last one. I'm going to be breaking it all down. Trey Lance, the entire defense, offense, what happened, who played, who didn't play, all after this.
Let's go get him. Let's go get him today, man. Let's go. Hey, dominate on 3. 1, 2, 3. Dominate.
What's going on, guys? I'm back. Training camp day 11, like I said, just ended. I got back home. Sorry for being a little late, and got to give a shout out to everybody tuning in. 91649er, thank you for tuning in. Real quick, training camp day 11, couple of things to talk about. Obviously, the second to last day of training camp. We're coming off an off day, but the 49ers, they had a bit of an extended practice today. What they did was they had an 11 on 11 session without any caveats being 11 on 11 move the ball or anything like that. Then they had a 2-minute drill, and then they had move the ball period as well. So a pretty packed practice today, including one-on-ones. I'm going to be breaking it all down. For those of you who are new to the program, here's how it goes. I'm going to be going over the entire play-by-play of the 11 on 11 session. Then I'm going to go through all of your questions. So be sure to drop all of your questions in the chat if you guys have any questions about today's training camp, and I will get to them after breaking down the 11 on 11s. Then I'm going to go through the position groups, tell you guys who stood out, who maybe had an off day, and then we'll wrap it up from there. As always, be sure to subscribe to this channel as well as the 49ers RedZone podcast. We are going live a ton, so be sure to subscribe to the channel. Be sure to stay tuned with the content. Additionally, we have a donation link. So if any of you guys are kind enough to give us a donation, we greatly appreciate it. I will drop the link in the chat and then put it obviously up so that you guys can get it. But here it is. Let's drop it in the chat. And there we go. That is the donation link. So be sure to check that out if you guys can. If not, no big deal. Thank you guys for tuning in. Be sure to subscribe. And like I said, we're going to start with the 11 on 11s. Then we're going to go through the entire the entire offense defense. And I'm taking your questions all throughout. So be sure to subscribe and be sure to give your questions. Without further ado, let's get into it. So after the one-on-one session, we had an 11 on 11 period, and this was without any restrictions. So there wasn't a move the ball period, no time restrictions or anything. It was just regular scrimmage. The first play was an Elijah Mitchell run for 2 yards. Then Trey Lance, first completion of the day. He hit Brandon Ayuk on a 15-yard slant. This ball was interestingly placed. So Ayuk was running a slant from the left outside boundary towards the middle. Lance threw this ball. This was somewhat of an inaccurate throw. Lance threw this ball on the back shoulder of Ayuk instead of out front. Now, there was a defender maybe 5-10 yards in front, so maybe Lance was anticipating not wanting Ayuk to get laid out by that defender, but still, I thought that there was enough space to fit that ball in. A little bit of a poor placement here from Lance, although it was a completion. Ayuk made the nice catch, got 15 yards on the play because he had enough separation from cornerback Kadar Holman so that he could make the back shoulder catch without there being any interference. Lance starting the day 1 for 1. Jeff Wilson Jr. then got the next play. He was in with the first team and had a pretty nice run. He had about a 15 to 20-yard run up the right end. Jeff Wilson Jr., he had a pretty good day, and you'll see a couple of these plays where, he might have broken a few plays out for big gains. This was one of them. Trey Sermon then came in, and it was a very similar play. Up the right end, he got 15 yards on the play, and the running game had a very good start to the day. After the slow Elijah Mitchell 2-yard run, Sermon and Jeff Wilson Jr., I believe it was Mitchell, not exactly sure, but Sermon and Jeff Wilson Jr., a pair of big runs, 15 yards each. Tyrion Davis-Price then came in with the first team, and he was tackled for loss. A loss of 2. Akeem Spence was in the backfield immediately, tried to go left, tried to bounce it off to the edge, and Akeem Spence was there in the backfield for a loss of 2. Then on the next play came in the second team offense. Nate Sudfeld tried to hit Brandon Ayuk over the middle for 15 yards. Sudfeld, though, threw it wide right. Now, both quarterbacks, Lance and Sudfeld, have occasionally struggled for, for throwing these outside the number throws and throwing balls that are too far wide. That's something that we've seen. Sudfeld here misses too far wide. It would have been probably complete had it been on target, but misses too far wide on the play. Jermichael Hasty then gets the next play with the third team offense. He got 2 yards. He made a good cut on the play, cut from right to left where there was the hole, but after that, he was swallowed up. Defense was there for 2 yards. On the next play, it was one of the longer throws of the day. Brock Purdy hit Malik Turner, who was wide open on the play for some reason down the right sideline for 40 yards. I think the 49ers might have been playing a zone, and nobody picked up Malik Turner. He was just wide open for 40 yards down the right sideline. You know, the throw took a little bit to get there. It was a bit of a higher throw rather than a bullet, but still wide open, 40-yard completion from Brock Purdy. All right, continuing forward, we've got the next play. It was Jordan Mason. He got a pitch to the left side, got a few yards on the play, his first carry of the day. You see a good amount of running so far with a couple of successful pass plays to begin the day in the 11-on-11 period. Tyrion Davis-Price then got the next carry. He took it up the middle, but got 0 yards on the play, was stopped once again. Not really much of a running lane on the play with the third team, the third team offense. First team offense came back. First play, Trey Lance, 20 yards to Brandon Ayuk. Ambry Thomas was in soft coverage, and he kind of, in a way, maybe it was translated into a zone because he did not move after Ayuk made his he had an inseam and he broke inside. Thomas didn't go with him. Ayuk got 20 on the play and 20 after the catch. Some ruled this as a touchdown. It wasn't, in my opinion at least. I thought Ayuk, he stopped and he would have been stopped eventually, but it was in overall a 40-yard play. 20 before the catch, 20 after. Trey Lance, 2 for 2, 2 completions to Brandon Ayuk down the field. Then Lance came back. This was a nice throw along the right sideline. Lance came back. Deebo Samuel was running about a 15 to 17-yard comeback route, and then came as he was breaking back. Trey Lance hit him in stride. It was a little bit of a high throw, but Samuel made the catch, and this ended up being Trey Lance's third straight completion of the day, and one of the better. Obviously, one of the continuing this trend of throwing for 15 yards on plays. So 3 pretty good completions to start. A 15-yarder to Ayuk on a slant, a 20-yarder with 20 yards after the catch to Ayuk after that, and then a 15 to 20-yard comeback to Deebo Samuel on the right sideline. Davis-Price then got a carry with the first team, and he tried to go, but he was stuck in the backfield for a loss of, or for pretty much a no gain. Akeem Spence was there once again. He was there on a play just a couple of plays before, and now he was there again today on that play. That wrapped up the just the non-move the ball period for the 49ers. Then came the 2-minute drills. So in the 2-minute drills, this was the scenario, at least for the second team offense. You started at your own 35, you had no timeouts, and you had 2 minutes and 30 seconds to move the ball. This was essentially simulating an end of the second half drive. What do I mean by that? The 49ers were up 3 on this drive, and yet they were pushing the ball trying to score a touchdown. So the first team offense came first out. Lance, his first throw hit Elijah Mitchell in the flat for 5 yards. The ball was a little high, something we saw a couple of times today where the ball just ends up being a little high from Trey Lance. But overall, the receiver was able to corral it in. Good catch by Elijah Mitchell, who got 5 yards on the play. Oh, my fault. Real quick, let me break that. 2-minute drill comes after this. This is actually red zone play. Red zone, not 2-minute drill yet. 2-minute drill coming after this. This was in the red zone. Lance, though, hitting Mitchell for 5 yards. On the next play, the offensive line did good job. What do I mean by that? The right tackle, the left tackle pushed the defensive lineman towards the outside, allowing Lance to step up in the pocket. A good job by him. And then with the hole presented in front of him, he took off across the middle. And this, in my opinion, was a touchdown. I didn't originally tweet it as a touchdown, but this was a touchdown. Lance just took off across the middle. You saw this play a couple of days ago in the red zone where he just saw the opening and took off. And while he didn't cross the barrier, there was nobody in his way to stop him from getting a touchdown. So, touchdown run from Lance in the red zone. On the next play, we saw Trey Lance get sacked. The defense kind of the pressure kind of got there quick, but Lance could not get the ball out. Something we saw a little bit in the red zone, which I don't think is necessarily a worry at all yet. But Lance did hold the ball a little too long on some of these plays in the red zone, allowing sacks to occur, despite the offensive line sometimes holding the pressure for 3 to 4 seconds. On the next play, though, Lance hit Deebo Samuel on an 8-yard out route. I don't believe this was ruled a touchdown, but it was a good throw from Lance in that he hit the. He was going to the left sideline and he threw this ball probably a yard ahead of the left sideline, like a yard wide of the left sideline, to put it in a place where only Deebo Samuel could come down with the catch. Samuel extended his arms, kept 2 feet in, and this could have been a touchdown. I didn't count it as one because I thought it was. I thought the officials hadn't ruled it a touchdown, but it could have been one. This was an 8-yard out route. Good throw from Trey Lance. He started the day 5 of 5. Second team offense came in on the first play. Nate Sudfeld hit Willie Sneed for a touchdown in the back of the end zone. Good throw by Nate Sudfeld, who actually had a pretty strong day overall, especially in the red zone. He had a pretty strong day. First hitting Willie Sneed for a touchdown, and then coming back over the middle of the end zone to hit Troy Fumagalli, who made a nice catch. The ball was a little high. Fumagalli went up, he caught the ball, and stayed in bounds for a touchdown over the middle of the field. Then, Jermichael Hasty took an HB draw play, which is normally designed for Tyrion Davis-Price with the second team offense, but instead Hasty got this carry, HB draw, and he was explosive on this play. He just shot straight up the gap and got a touchdown run on the play. So 3 straight touchdowns for the second team offense against the second team defense in the red zone. Coming back to it, Brock Purdy came in on the play. Purdy his first throw was also a touchdown. Actually, he hit Tanner Hudson on a slant route, which ended up becoming a touchdown. And then that was the one play that the third team offense got in the red zone. So a good amount of plays for touchdowns, right? Sudfeld had the 2 touchdowns, Hasty had the HB draw, and then Purdy had a touchdown of his own. Then came in the first team offense. First play, Trey Lance, it was essentially a sack. He ended up rushing for 1 to 2 yards after the play, but I ruled this as a sack. It was a coverage sack. Receivers on this play specifically did not get open, but the 49ers were running out some backups against the top cornerbacks for the 49ers. So coverage sack, Lance held the ball too long. Receivers didn't get open, ended up being a sack. On the next play, Trey Lance tried to find Brandon Ayuk in the back of the end zone, but overthrew him for about 5 yards. This could have been a predetermined throw from Lance in that he was looking to just throw the ball away because pressure was kind of getting there, but he overthrew, misfired on the play, looking for Brandon Ayuk, which if it was a perfectly placed ball would have been a touchdown. Instead, turns an incompletion. Then Trey Lance on the next play held the ball too long once again and was sacked. And on this play, Malik Turner and Danny Gray were your top 2 receivers. They didn't necessarily get open, but you want Trey Lance in this instance to throw the ball away rather than take the sack. All right. And then on the final play of the red zone period, Nate Sudfeld got his third touchdown of the day, hitting Marcus Johnson actually in the back end on the right side of the end zone. He hit him in the back of the end zone for another touchdown. Good day for Nate Sudfeld. 3 TDs in the red zone. Now, this is where the 2-minute drill that I spoke about came through. The 2-minute drill, obviously, what do you call it? The 2-minute drill being the 35-yard line. You were on your own 35. Then you had 2 minutes and 30 seconds without a timeout, up 3 points to drive down the field. First came the first team offense. Trey Lance, first play, He rushed rushed along the left sideline for about 30 yards. Now, people are ruling this play as a touchdown. Two things. First, the officials ruled it a 30-yard-ish type of run, and then Talanoa Hufanga would have caught up with, or he was side by side with Trey Lance. He would have stopped Trey Lance before Lance reached the end zone on the play. Wouldn't have been a touchdown in my book. 30-yard run instead for Trey Lance. Then Trey Lance had a zone read. He kept the ball, but had a loss of 2 yards on the play. Jordan Willis, someone who has stood out to me in run defense, was there on the play, and that ended up being a 2nd and 12. Then on second down, Trey Lance rushed to the right side for 8 yards, getting a 3rd and 4 opportunity, meaning it was his first third down of the day. And then what does he do? He goes straight back to his legs. 5-yard run up the middle for a first down, and Trey Lance and the 49ers offense started moving the ball. Then on the next play, Lance looked left, then looked right and hit Deebo Samuel as pressure was coming in. I liked that Lance got through his progressions. These were all short routes. Lance quickly went from progression 1 to 2 and then found Deebo Samuel as progression 3 on the play, hitting him right across the middle, 7-yard gain on first down. Then on second down, Trey Lance connected with Juwan Jennings on the right sideline for another first down. At this point, Trey Lance was 7 of 8 on the day. Pretty strong start for the 22-year-old rookie, or 22-year-old second-year player. 7 of 8, continues to move the ball in the move the ball period as well. First down here, clock continues to tick, and then Trey Lance hits Jeff Wilson Jr. for a 3-yard play, who went out of bounds on the play. Good connection with Trey Lance. Looked just straight to the flat and hit what the defense gave him. 3-yard play. Then on 2nd and 7, Trey Lance hit George Kittle in the flat for 8 yards, and the clock was continuing to run. So what did Trey Lance do? He spiked the ball with about 3 seconds left. Now, normally, because this is a a second quarter type of 2-minute drill instead of a fourth quarter type of 2-minute drill. And since the 49ers were up by 3 points, this would normally be where the 49ers kick a field goal to go up 6 in the half. Instead, the 49ers ran the last play, obviously, because field goals don't really matter in training camp. They ran the last play with 3 seconds left near the end zone, about at the 4-yard line or so. Lance tried to hit Juwan Jennings, but Talanoa Hufanga, I believe it was him or Samuel Womack, one of the two, broke the pass up. Good play by the defense, and that ended the drive for the 49ers. Great job by Trey Lance, right? He utilized his legs and his arms, taking what the defense gave him, and moved the ball down the field after struggling to do so earlier last week, or I guess in the later portion of last week during some of the drives when the offense stalled. After Trey Lance then came in the second team offense, it was the same situation. You've got 35, you start at your own 35-yard lines. You got 2 minutes and 30 seconds to go 65 yards down the field. You're up 3 points, so you can take a field goal. Here's how it went. First play, Trey Sermon got a 1-yard rush. Defense was there immediately. So 2nd and 9 coming up. Then the defense jumped off sides, giving the 49ers offense, the second team offense that is, an extra 5 yards, becoming 2nd and 4. On 2nd and 4, Trey Sermon got the ball again, but the defense was once again there. Good run defense from the 49ers today. Loss of 2 on the play, leading to 3rd and 6. And what does Nate Sudfeld do on 3rd and 6? He moves the chains, hitting Rayray Mccloud on a 7-yard play for a first down. Rayray Mccloud actually saw a good amount of action today. Hit the 40-yard pass that was Malik Turner, but McLeod got this catch. You'll see a couple of straight plays to Rayray Mccloud. He seems to be a very, very high targeted player by Nate Sudfeld, and overall, Rayray Mccloud has been a pleasant surprise in training camp so far. So on 3rd and 6, like I said, he hit McLeod for a 7-yard gain. Then on 1st and 10, screen play to Rayray Mccloud, got 0 yards, leading to 2nd and 10. But Nate Sudfeld once again moved the chains, hitting Rayray Mccloud for the 3rd straight play on an 11-yard play, which ended up being a first down. Then Nate Sudfeld continued. The 49ers continued to try and pass the ball. On this next play on 1st and 10, Nate Sudfeld was looking to hit a player in the flat, but Charles Omenihu was in the passing lane and broke the pass up, leading to 2nd and 10. Then Sudfeld had a running back screen hit Trey Sermon, who then got 9 yards on the play. This was a nice run by Sermon, one of his better runs overall in the day after getting the catch because he weaved through the defense, going left to right and cutting accordingly to get to the 9 yards. Sermon then on 3rd and 1, what did he do? He got a 4-yard pass from the flat from Nate Sudfeld, which eventually led the 49ers to a field goal. Sudfeld spiked the ball, and then the 49ers, they didn't kick the field goal, but it would have been a field goal attempt from pretty short. So 2 successful drives to start the move the ball period for the 49ers, getting the ball all the way down the field in the 2-minute drills. Then Trey Lance came back again onto the field. This was the move the ball period again, and this was his worst throw of the day to start. So Lance, I believe it was coming off play action. It might have been a drop back, faced pressure, and as he was rolling to this right, he should have just thrown the ball away, but instead, off his back foot, tried to just float a ball up, which was almost intercepted by Fred Warner. It was an ugly throw. He should have thrown the ball away, and instead tried to just float it up to get is there a bot in here? Why do I not see the bot, man? All right, I'll get mods though soon, but I do not see the bot. That's unfortunate. Uh, let's see. Damn, I don't see the bot. All right, I'll get to it in a minute though. But this was Trey Lance's worst throw of the day. So remember, we take the good, we take the bad. You got to take both sides of it. This is what I do. I just give you guys the information overall. First throw, Trey Lance threw it off his back foot, should have thrown it away. Instead, floated it up in the air, and Fred Warner almost got an interception. On the second throw, Trey Lance hit Brandon Ayuk on a 5-yard out route, and this was his 10th completion of the day in the move the ball period. And so, second down, Trey Lance bounces back from a terrible throw, gets a 5-yard out route to Brandon Ayuk, leading to 3rd and 5. On 3rd and down, Jeff Wilson Jr. has his best route in the day, had a breakaway, kind of like a breakaway play. This could have been honestly a touchdown. Jeff Wilson Jr. just bursted through the right side of the offensive line and got to the second level and even to the safeties. And he obviously stopped, but if he had kept going, he could have broken away on this play for a touchdown on 3rd down, which is exactly what you want to see. The 49ers being able to efficiently run the ball on 3rd down. Good play overall by Jeff Wilson Jr. But that moved the chains. The 49ers just kept going with the move the ball period. On 1st down, Trey Lance looked to hit Looked to hit Kyle Juszczyk. This ball placement, like the ball placement overall, on Trey Lance outside the numbers, he always or not always, but he tends to throw it a little too wide. This ball was just a 4-yard flat to a wide open Juszczyk, and it was still a little too wide on the play. However, it ended up being a false start, which is why the 49ers ended up getting a 2nd and 15 on the play. It ended up being a false start, so you end up having a 1st down. So on first or I'm confusing myself now. There was a false start on the play, erasing the play, and so now it's 2nd and 15. On 2nd and 15, Trey Lance hit Tyrion Davis-Price on a screen, but Tyrion Davis-Price had nowhere to go. Kevin Givens, who was a disruptor all afternoon, got in the backfield for a loss of 2 yards. And so what happens? It's 3rd and 17. Trey Lance has to complete it deep, and this was one of Trey Lance's best throws of the day. So what Trey Lance did, he faced pressure, but stepped up in the pocket, then rolled out to his right. He wasn't touched by anyone. It wasn't a coverage sack. Rolled out to his right, then set his feet and fired across the middle to Brandon Ayuk for an 18-yard completion and the 1st down. And this concluded the move the ball period for the 49ers first team. Great throw from Trey Lance to be able to move the chains, and he did it very successfully today. There were no 3 and outs today, and really the 49ers were able to move the ball, albeit the 49ers, obviously, their defense did not have Charvarius Ward or Emmanuel Mosley, their top corners today. After that, the 3rd team offense came back on the field. It first started with a 0-yard run. Drake Jackson was there on the play, leading to 2nd and 10. Then Jordan Mason came in and got a nice 6-yard run. Mason has this one run a day, which has just been a very good run where it showcases his NFL talent, where he just exhibits power, speed, and his entire tool set. That was on this play here. 6-yard run to set up 3rd and 4. And then on 3rd and 4, Brock Purdy throws a nice pass to move the chains. It was about a 6-yard pass on 3rd and 4, right to Danny Gray, who dropped the ball. And so the 49ers set up 4th down, and the third team offense was taken off the field, dropped by Danny Gray on a wide open pass from Brock Purdy that hit him just right in his hands, and he dropped it. Then came back the first team offense. Here's how the first 3 plays went. On 1st down, it was a 2-yard run, setting up 2nd and 8. Then on 2nd down, Trey Lance tried to hit Kyle Juszczyk, but he was tightly covered by Fred Warner. Warner knocked the ball out of Juszczyk's hands before Juszczyk could really even get the ball, leading to a long 3rd down, another 3rd and 8. And what does Trey Lance do? The same story as always. Trey Lance hits Jawan Jennings for a 10-yard play on 3rd and 8, who got 15 yards after the catch. Another good job by the second-year quarterback for the 49ers to be able to move the chains and get the 1st down. And after that, the 49ers let Trey Lance get a rest and put in the second-team defense, or second-team offense and second-team defense. And here came JaMychal Hasty with his first carry in a while. Got a 1-yard run on 1st down, setting up 2nd and 9. Sudfeld then hit, I forget who the receiver was, but he hit him for 7 yards in the flat, setting up 3rd and short. And then on 3rd and short, Sudfeld tried to hit Ross Dwelley, who was covered pretty well, but Sudfeld overthrew Ross Dwelley to the sidelines when trying to hit him on an out route, setting up a 4th down, and the second team defense was off the field. 49ers, pretty short practice, though. That's where practice ended. No more extended move the ball periods, no more 2-minute drills. So, with that said, that's the entire play-by-play of the day. Pretty short day compared to the other days where you might have seen a lot more periods of both. But with that said, I'm going to go ahead and take all of your questions. So be sure to drop all your questions on what you have from today before we head on into the position groups. All right, let's get into it. And guys, real quick, just the regular reminders. If you guys are enjoying this content, be sure to hit that like button and be sure to subscribe. Just like 916 Niners says right here, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. You know, we're growing slowly on our way to 1K, and I appreciate everybody that's coming out here. And one other thing, there is a giveaway on my channel, or sorry, on my Twitter right now. I want everybody to be able to be a part of it. It's an Elijah Mitchell signed jersey that me and my guy Wayne Breezy are giving away. Be sure to check out my Twitter, find that tweet, and I will pin it later today so that you guys can enter in the giveaway. Just got to follow a couple of instructions, and you can follow it too. And maybe when I hit 1K, we might do a special giveaway as well. So be sure to subscribe and be one of the first guys here so that we can get to 1K and potentially have that giveaway. Thank you guys so much, though, for tuning in. Gotta say, give a shout out to Bubbly Doge. Thank you for tuning in and for your kind words, as well as Bryant Culp. CJ Gray, thank you for tuning in as always, as well as 49ers Lakers for life. I don't necessarily appreciate your basketball team, but thank you for tuning in. Paul Hope, you too, man. Thank you always for tuning in, as well as Isaac, who is from NYC. That's interesting. 49er fan from NYC. You love to see it. Bay Area Baller, thank you for tuning in, Eric. Always appreciate you too. And he's got some good content always coming out. Be sure to go ahead and check him out. I do not see the bot, unfortunately. Hopefully that bot is up on out of here. But Kali Young, thank you, obviously, for your kind words and always tuning in. Appreciate you as well. And you know we're going to keep hustling. That's always what I do. Drew C. here says, tough for Gray. Heard he's been struggling. Now, Danny Gray has been interesting, right? He's been a guy who has been inconsistent. He's had several good catches, obviously, in training camp, but he's also had a couple of, rough moments, teaching rookie moments in a way, in that in one-on-ones and in 11-on-11s, there have been times where he struggled to separate despite his top speed. Additionally, he like today he had a drop issue. He tends to catch with his body, which was a thing as well in college, apart as instead of his hands. And so sometimes, like today, he tried to probably corral it to his body and just couldn't field it in. He's got to become a little more consistent in trying to catch it with his hands rather than his body, and also find a way to be a more efficient route runner so he can gain separation, because that's been a struggle as well. But he's also had a couple of splash plays, what you expect from a third round rookie as of now. We'll see. I don't think he's going to contribute as much as people believe, at least early, but he's still fairly raw as a receiver. Bubbly Doge asks, what was your take on the offensive line? Now, you might hear other reports, but in my opinion, I thought the offensive line wasn't bad today. Now, the run game did struggle a little bit, and I honestly think it's just they need to have cohesion with each other. I still think that they're not necessarily as acclimated with each other, especially because the center is where you're consistently just changing. Right today was Jake Brendel getting the start after Daniel Brunskill got it on Sunday, as well as I know Mike McGlinchey didn't play in all the first team, or sorry, not Mike McGlinchey. Well, both McGlinchey and Williams didn't play in all the first team reps. Colton McKivitz took over at left tackle for some time. Jordan Mills took over at left tackle for some time. And so you don't necessarily get your entire offensive line out yet, which I think we'll see a lot more after training camp concludes in those closed practices before the season starts. So I personally thought the offensive line was good overall. It's still obviously a work in progress. There are some plays where they just get overall beat and pressure gets there. But in my opinion, I thought, especially in the red zone, that was where most of the sacks came. And they were, in my opinion, coverage sacks. I think in the red zone, one thing that Trey Lance kind of struggled in is holding the ball too long. He's got to get that ball out quicker, be it a throwaway or be it hitting somebody, because otherwise it's going to result in sacks. And that's where the offensive line might take the brunt of the damage. But I thought they held up for 3 seconds, which is adequate enough time in the red zone on plays. So to me, I thought the offensive line was fine today, contrary to what other people might think. Again, I don't know what other people are saying. Maybe they're saying the same thing, but I thought the offensive line overall had a good day, even though, still things to work on. Have they still been having Jordan Mason run routes? Occasionally. Like there have been a couple of plays, maybe 3, 4, 5 in the entirety of training camp where they haven't run routes. And by run routes, I'd assume you mean from the outside, not necessarily at the running back position. But the issue is he doesn't necessarily get a lot of run because the 49ers have been trying to put their first and second team guys out there. And because of that, the 5 running backs ahead of him on the depth chart are getting most of the run. So he gets limited time, although I do anticipate that his role might skyrocket a little more when the 49ers are getting into those close practices, similar to how Elijah Mitchell went from RB4 to RB2 during that period as well. And so Mason, I think, is going to get his most play in the preseason, especially when the 49ers begin to bench their starters, which you might see a lot more in week 2 as to opposed to week 1 and week 3. And so that's where I think Mason might get a good amount of role. And I think that if he has a strong training camp, he could be a guy where you could see him take over from Jeff Wilson Jr. for that 4th spot. But at the moment, I think Jeff Wilson Jr. Is the favorite right now. Collie Young says, I've heard Manny Hugh has been balling. He had a really strong day on Sunday. And I think the reason he's going to have a solid role for the 49ers is that versatility, right? There have been 2 guys, in my opinion, where the 49ers have constantly put them on the inside and outside. And that's Kerry Hyder and Charles Omenihu. And Omenihu but has just definitely been the more consistent player of the 2. I think he's the guy who they envision in the Arden Key role to play maybe 35-40% of the defensive snaps while being solid in his role while doing so. So Omenihu, that's a guy who I think definitely you should keep your eyes on as the season continues, because he's in year 2 of the system. He himself said he feels more comfortable and he's getting a good amount of run. And yeah, he had a good day on Sunday. Who are a few that have been struggling in camp? Drew C asks. I mean, you've heard about Danny Gray a little bit. I think Jawan Jennings is at a really quiet camp. Uh, Not exactly sure what's going on in his mental space right now, but he's had a pretty quiet camp overall. I think Ambry Thomas obviously has had a bit of a quiet camp as well. Those are probably the three names that I'd mention when I'm originally thinking about it. Offensive line wise, I think Justin Skule has struggled in camp a bit. He's gotten beaten one on ones. He's also had a pretty rough time with in the offensive line when he was starting last week. So overall, I think that those are a couple of the names that have kind of struggled in camp. I mean, the dream. Thank you also for tuning in. He's also got a great channel. Be sure to check that out. Coach Cruz, thank you for tuning in, man. Appreciate it. Sacktown Izzy, every time he's coming in here, you know what he's saying. Trey Lance season, definitely about that. Niners Warriors asks, was there any visual celebrations by Debo, IU, Kittle during some of Trey's successful plays? Are you seeing them rally around him when he's in rhythm? I don't think there's like many celebrations, but they're definitely. I think if you're talking about chemistry, I think it's definitely building. So remember when Trey Lance was struggling in that red zone period, or it's not struggling because obviously he threw very well today, but when he was taking a bunch of sacks and trying to like find receivers in that red zone period. Right after that, what happened? He worked one on one with George Kittle on back shoulder throws in preparation of those red zone kind of plays on a practice field right after the first scrimmage. So you definitely do see the connection increasing between the Trey Lance and these three receivers. I don't know if I'd necessarily say visual celebrations, but I'm not going to say that there wasn't. That's not just something I'm looking for. I'm more so looking at the next play after a play, trying to figure out everything on the field. CJ Gray says, I hope that Lance just protects the ball while he figures it all out. He hasn't necessarily had a fumble issue yet. I don't think that that's something that's popped out to me at all. I think that he should protect the ball fine. If you're talking about interceptions, yeah, that's something that we obviously need a bigger sample size to see. But hopefully that's the case because if he does, just like in 2019, the example that I bring when Garoppolo had 14 touchdowns and 8 interceptions in the first 9 games while only throwing for 229 yards a game, the 49ers went 8-1. So you don't necessarily need elite quarterback play from Trey Lance for this 49ers team to do good. It's just his ceiling is what pushes the 49ers over the top if that ceiling is reached. So that's the main part about Trey Lance. Hopefully he does protect the ball. Miss Debbie, thank you for tuning in as well. And obviously, got to give a shout out to Wayne on the jersey giveaway. I've seen you at one practice. I forget when, but thank you for tuning in. Sacktown, as he asked, any concerns with Brendler? Do you think he's doing better than some may have expected? I mean, I do have concerns in that he's had a lack of games like starting experience in his career. Right, there's only been one instance where he's truly been dictated as a starter, and that was in 2018 when he was under Chris Forster. He was the starting center over there in Miami, and then he got injured after 3 games or 4 games. And so, to me, it's not necessarily like that's the main concern. How is he going to fare in a real game situations? But I thought today was a fairly solid day for Jake Brendel especially in the one-on-ones. He looked pretty fine, and that's his main thing, right? Is he going to be fine in pass protection, or is he going to or is he going to be predominantly a run blocking guy? To me, I don't think it's I don't think Jake Brendel's necessarily doing like extremely better than some may expected. I think he's just a regular average starting center. But to me, I don't think the 49ers need more than average play at the position if they have the pieces that are playing as well around him. Because Banks had a solid day. Burford, I think, had a solid day as well, especially in one-on-ones. And the tackles are the tackles. So, like the 49ers have proven time and time again, they don't need an elite player. Like they can manage with an average level player at one of the positions and continue winning. So to me, not too concerned about Brendel. At least in like the main thing is at least he can snap. He's been able to snap fine. Kind of answered this one here. Starting, how do the starting job guards look? Looks like it's Banks and the rookie shop to lose. I don't think either of them is going to lose their job. I think Banks and Burford are honestly locks at this point. Banks especially, and then I think Burford, given the way that he's been handed the right guard job and he's performed in that realm, I think he's a lock as well. So they've looked fine. They're still a little inconsistent, but Burford's ability and pass protection to hold up was pretty shown in the one-on-one drills, in drills that favor defensive line men. And Banks, he had one rep against Javon Kinlaw where Kinlaw just long armed him, but there are not many players that Banks is going to face like Javon Kinlaw. He's had good reps against Kinlaw in the past as well, and had a pretty solid day overall, apart from that one rep. So I think they're looking fine. I think they're looking better, and I think honestly, like, this offensive line is not something I'm too concerned about heading into 2022, especially with this extra month still going on. Alan, thank you as well for tuning in. Appreciate you coming out. Bryant Culp asks, how is special teams? Have you seen any fake punts been practiced? Special teams has not necessarily been practiced too much. You see it a little bit, like after every scrimmage, they'll have like a little special teams period, or they'll have people fielding punts for Mitch Wishnowsky, or people fielding punts from the machines and things like that. And the guys that have seen that have kick and punt return from the machines are McLeod, Brandon Ayuk at times, Danny Gray, Keyshawn Johnson, and Marcus Johnson. Those are like the five that I've mainly seen return. So I think a mold of that is who you're going to see. But special teams hasn't really been incorporated too much, especially because you can't tackle, first of all. And I think there was like one day where they had live action where a defense was charging in and an offense was going out. But apart from that, I haven't seen too much out of special teams. Federalist 415 asks, or 45 asks, Greenlaw or Alshire? And assume you mean in nickel packages who goes off and who stays on. Greenlaw is the one that stays on. Alshire is the one that goes off in nickel packages. 49 Jeff asked two questions. How's Mitchell doing, and is he the clear-cut running back one so far? I think Mitchell's been fine in practice as well. He didn't have many carries today. He might have just not played much, or if at all, in team drills. But he is the clear-cut running back one, in my opinion. When he's been on the field, he's taken a majority of the running back one snaps. I think the battle in the running game is not with Mitchell, but for the spots behind Mitchell. I think RB2 and RB3 right now are being battled between Sermon and between Tyron Davis-Price. But I also think the 49ers are honestly going to ride with the hot hand. I've said this a couple of times, that they're going to ride with the hot hand in the running back group because sometimes when you see some of these running backs be successful for one carry or two carries, Shanahan has gone to them again for a second or a third carry, which allows them to kind of get a groove in it and also move the ball down the field, getting first downs. So that's a strategy that I think the 49ers might implement this year. There is the bot. Okay, let's kick this guy out. Perfect. My bad, y'all. There we go. But thank you for tuning in, 49er Jeff. David, good to see Miss Debbie in here. Definitely good to see Miss Debbie in here. Drew C asks, if you had to say as of now, who do you think be the nickel corner? Now, if you're asking me who's leading the depth chart, I'd say Denard. But I honestly think that Samuel Womack has a shot to win the nickel corner job. He's been slowly creeping up. He's getting time with the ones a little bit. And I think that the 49ers, if he shows enough during preseason and during those closed practices heading into the regular season, the 49ers might be better off cutting Denard, saving an extra roster spot for one of their younger guys, because otherwise they're going to have to let go of one of the young guys that they made an investment in over the past 2 years. And I don't know if they're too ready to do that yet, whereas they can cut Denard and potentially bring him back if needed, especially after they if somebody goes on IR or something like that. We'll figure that out. But as of now, I think Denard is the leader in the depth chart, but I honestly would not be surprised if Womack ends up getting the job week one, and it's a tandem of him and Jimmy Ward rotating in the slot. Federalist 45 asks, Lance often looks like he will be very susceptible to strip sacks and messy pockets. I, like, this could be the case, but I just haven't seen it on the field so far to where I can say that this is true, because Lance he hasn't, first of all, they aren't tackling, but he also hasn't fumbled enough he hasn't fumbled at all in training camp. And also he's shown the ability to get out of these messy pockets, which is another thing. So I don't know if he'll be susceptible to strip sacks. That's something we have to wait and see. What Pope Master asked, did Bosa practice today? Yes, he did. And he actually had a nice rep against Trent Williams in the one-on-ones. I viewed it as equal. Bosa pushed, Williams pushed back. A pretty interesting rep against both of them. Dev14 asks, 415 asks, is Trey Sermon RB2 or RB3? This is yet to be determined. I think, like I said with the hot hand question, kind of it depends on the day, right? Because TDP today got some first team carries, and he's also been seen sometimes as RB3. Jeff Wilson got first team carries today. He's been seen as RB3 sometimes, and same with Trey Sermon. He got carries today, and he's been seen with RB3 at some times. So I think there is a battle right now going on specifically between TDP and Sermon for that RB2 spot. But I don't necessarily look too much into it because I think they're both going to have a role in this offense. Hoopin Stats says, I found you from Branch Channel. Keep it up. Killing it. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. And there's my guy, Wayne Breezy. Thank you for tuning in, man. He asked, how bad was Ambry Thomas today? I mean, Ambry, in my opinion, Ambry wasn't that bad today because he just wasn't targeted that much. The one time that I have him in coverage, he was in soft coverage. He wasn't in press coverage today at all. He was like in soft coverage. The one pass that I had was he was in soft coverage. Brandon Ayuk had a 20-yard catch or so on him with 20 yards after the catch. That was the main play he gave up. But I don't know if you place the blame on him or if you place the blame on a safety or who you place the blame on, given he was in soft coverage and didn't pick up Brandon Ayuk as he was going on the inseam. Stanley Thomas as well. Thank you for tuning in. Got to appreciate everybody that's tuning in the chat, man. According to Raj, Ambry was getting cooked up like bacon grease today. Like I said, he was in soft coverage, which has been the case on several plays this offseason, where I don't necessarily blame it on the cornerback on that play. It's just the look and the offense taking what's given to them. Because if you're in soft coverage 7 to 10 yards off, I'm not going to run a go route because you already have like the leverage on that, given how back you are, that you can respond. But instead, Shanahan has had receivers run that in route, that like a slant route or a dig or something like that, which gets the receivers open because of the created space already, and the receiver, like an Ayuk or Samuel's ability to get open. Let's see. He never plays press coverage. I spoke about this yesterday with Jack Hammer. Thomas, the issue with him is the 49ers are afraid of him giving up the deep catch. And so if he plays press oh my God, this bot, let me get this bot way out of here. Bye. Bye. But my bad. As we if we talk about Ambry Thomas and his press coverage ability, Thomas, the issue is like he'll hold up. Sometimes he holds in press coverage. Sometimes he gets burned, but there are reps where he plays good in press coverage and holds up, but then he gives up the catch at the catch point. And I understand that he's in position, which is a good thing, but overall, like giving up that 20-yard catch is giving up that 20-yard catch. And so to me, I think the 49ers are trying to shield themselves from giving up catches that deep like that deep in depth, and instead are fine with Thomas giving up a 7-yard catch as opposed to a 20-yard catch every single play, which is why he doesn't play press coverage. At least that's my expectation of it. Instead, they play him in soft man coverage where, they might give up a 7-yard play after that, but hope the defense can react and stop it from becoming a 20-yard game. As Dev says, get them likes up, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in. But yeah, get them likes up. And with that said, I think it's time we go over the entire quarterbacks, running backs, all the position groups, and just break it down. If you guys continue to have questions, be sure to drop your questions in the chat, and I'll get to all of them. But let me get into the position groups and talk to you guys about who played well and what kind of was their performance. Obviously, we got to start with the quarterbacks. And I think I destroyed the bots. I think so. If they pop up, I'll definitely destroy them continuously. But starting off with the quarterbacks, Trey Lance, obviously the main storyline of the day. You can even make the argument that Trey Lance was the best player on the field today, which is great to see. I had him, I believe, at 14 of 17 on the day. Great passing stats. He had a spike, which I didn't include, and then he had a sack, which after the sack, he threw an incompletion. I didn't include that. It was a pretty, that read was a pretty poor read, but given that he was sacked, maybe he tried to force it. Not sure. But I didn't include either of those, given that it was a sack. I didn't include any throws coming off sacks. nor did I include the spike. So 14-17 was my overall countdown of it. Lance was pretty efficient today, obviously. But the main thing is none of these throws were really 30 yards down the field. Like you'd see these crossing throws for 15, 20 yards down the field. That's the good part about Trey Lance in that he took what the defense gave him today. Like I talked about in soft coverage, he didn't try and force the throw deep really. And instead, he had a couple of good plays where he was able to hit over the middle. Lance doesn't struggle over the middle. I think as surprising as it sounds, Lance struggles a little more outside the numbers. He throws wide at times, specifically when he's trying to hit receivers coming out of their breaks on out routes, he throws wide at times, and he's working on his timing and accuracy over there. But he was pretty good over the middle today, and even on some of the throws, he was able to complete outside the numbers. Now there were a couple of sketchy throws from Trey Lance, a couple of the incompletions or a couple of the dead plays. One of the incompletions was a near interception to Fred Warner. He floated the ball up and just essentially allowed Fred Warner to get his hands on it and make a play by instead of throwing it away. He was rolling to his right, everybody was covered, and instead of throwing it away, he kind of just threw it off his back shoulder, a lofty pass. That should not happen in a game. If it does, it's going to get intercepted, and that's like the game kind of changing type of play. So that should have been a throwaway from Trey Lance. I talked about the completion to Ayuk on the back shoulder. I would have liked to see that in front of Ayuk in terms of the accuracy wise as he's coming out of that slant, because when instead of like stopping his forward motion by having him adjust to try and catch it off his back shoulder, you throw it in front, you might get 5 extra yards on that play. So there are a couple of tidbits, where you kind of want Lance to hit a little better, but obviously you're going to take a day where Lance throws 14-17. He had the rushing touchdown that I talked about. He also, you could potentially count it as a passing touchdown. I didn't, but you could potentially count the 8-yard out to Deebo Samuel as a passing touchdown. There were a couple of well-placed balls overall, right? I think today it was very notable that Charvarius Ward and Emmanuel Mosley were not there. There weren't many plays where it was tight coverage, from the cornerbacks at least. When you were talking down the field, Lance made a good amount of throws in that 10 to 20-yard range, but there wasn't much tight coverage on the plays at all, which allowed Trey Lance to obviously be more comfortable and not try and force something in, not try and overcompensate and hit the throws. So that was definitely a good thing. So that's some of the pros about Trey Lance today. Really efficient. Accuracy was definitely there, especially on some intermediate throws, which hadn't been there before. Some of the things that he kind of has to work on, like I mentioned, some of the accuracy outside the numbers. There was a 4-yard throw to Kyle Juszczyk where Juszczyk essentially had to lay out to make the catch because Lance had thrown. It was wide open too, but Lance had thrown it too far wide to the left. There are some plays like that where you hope Lance can just hit him in stride so that Juszczyk gets 7 yards. Instead, I mean, obviously the play was blown dead because of a false start, like I mentioned, but there are throws where you want Lance to hit consistently outside the numbers. Let's see if that continues to grow. The other thing, the main thing to me today is him being able to be a better decision maker in the red zone. He was efficient in the red zone in terms of his passing completion percentage, but I want Lance to not take as many coverage sacks and be able to either see a read, like hit reads even if they're shorter passes immediately, because there's not that much distance to go. Hit shorter passes, not trying to look for that deep bomb on those plays, because you just don't have enough time. You only have 3 seconds really to download. Even if it's a great offensive line, you got probably 3-4 seconds to just unload the ball. And so to me, I just want to see the processing continue to improve in that area of the field more so. But great day from Lance overall. One of his strongest days of camp. You can judge it how you judge it. One of his strongest days. Took what the defense gave him. That was the big thing. And was able to be accurate on throws that he was inaccurate on earlier in training camp. Real quick, let me get a swig and then we'll go on to the running backs. And actually, we got a question here from CLNYC. Do you have trust on the 49er backup quarterbacks in case Trey goes down? Because I don't. I wouldn't say I have full confidence, really. I don't think I think Sudfeld's better than people advertise. I think he's had a couple of good days. He's had also a couple of bad days. I'm not going to say he's a high end backup. I think he's just an average backup. But if you can tell me the top teams in the NFL and their backup situation, and if you have trust in them, you're going to point more so or not that if a starter goes down, that season is over. I think 49er fans have become infatuated with the fact that a backup quarterback is important because Jimmy Garoppolo's inconsistency to stay on the field, his durability issues really have gotten the 49ers thinking the backup quarterback position is important when in reality it's not. Over the last couple of years, Patrick Mahomes has had Chad Henne, a low-end backup, as his backup the entirety of like the last 2 or so years, and they've won a Super Bowl. They've made the Super Bowl, obviously won against us. They've made the Super Bowl another time and made the AFC championship the other time. The Bengals don't necessarily have that top of a backup quarterback. The Bills don't have a top backup quarterback right now. I think it's Matt Barkley right now. And if you're telling me Matt Barkley is a top backup, you're kidding yourself. Uh, what other team can? Oh my God, these bots, bro. Like the one team that I can really, really think of right now that is a contending team that has a backup quarterback is the Cleveland Browns, and the reason they had a backup quarterback is because Deshaun Watson's situation was so uncertain that you didn't know if he was going to be suspended for the year or not, and that's the reason they had Jacoby Brissett the entire time. Most of these backup quarterback situations are like pretty dire themselves. But the reason that these teams are elite is because instead of spending resources towards that position, they go ahead and bolster the roster overall and have trust in their starting quarterback, which is the entire goal of football. I don't think like a lot of people love the Eagles story, right, where Nick Foles led the Eagles to a Super Bowl, but there aren't many situations where a backup quarterback is able to take a team to a Super Bowl consistently, right? So the point, in my opinion, to me, I don't really care who the backup quarterback is for the 49ers because if Trey Lance is done for the season, the 49ers season is over. And that's the case for probably 80% of the teams in the NFL, with that number increasing when we talk about contending teams in the NFL. And real quick, Curtis McLeod asks, is Emmanuel Mosley hurt or injured because he hasn't practiced in a couple of days? He has a hamstring injury. I heard after practice today that I forget who said it, but the coaches said that he does have a kind of a, what do you call it, a hamstring issue. You saw, I was a little wary on Sunday because normally for planned rest days, you don't see guys dress up and you don't see guys condition as much. You see him kind of around, but not conditioning as much. And Emmanuel Mosley was going through something like a conditioning program, which had indicated to me that he was potentially injured. Obviously, he wasn't out there today either. He was seeing conditioning on the other field. There are two practice fields. He was seeing conditioning on the second practice field while scrimmage was going on. Has a hamstring issue. That's why he hasn't practiced. John says it here. Trust in Shanahan and system more so than backup quarterback. And CLU, CL, thank you for asking the questions. Always a pleasure to go through them. But with that said, let's go ahead to the running backs because the running game was strong today and also sometimes weak today. There were a couple of plays where the running backs just didn't find a hole or find a lane to go to. There were 0 yard runs, some from TDP, some negative yard runs for tackles for loss, but there were some pretty big gains as well. Jeff Wilson Jr. broke a couple of plays. Might have had a touchdown on one of the plays going towards the right side. The other ones were. Let me get to them. Just to start off the scrimmage today, Jeff Wilson Jr. had a 15 to 20 yard run, which wasn't the breakaway one. And then Trey Sermon had another 15 yard run. So, this was a little bit of an interesting day. You didn't necessarily see the consistency with the running game in getting 5 yard gains every single time, but you saw some of these bigger gains, which hasn't happened yet, which is good because when you see that you can potentially get the best of both worlds, the running game and the consistency in the running game and getting these carries on a down to down basis, as well as the breakaway plays. I think that could be like the best of the best for the 49ers running game. So that potentially maybe that's kind of like what the 49ers ceiling is with this running game. And I think that when the consistency happens with not only with the running backs finding out the rotation, get them getting back in the groove, but with the offensive line, that could be something cool to see. The other thing about the running game, let's see. I mean, we can talk about Trey Lance in the running game because Trey Lance utilized his legs a lot today. Talking about in the move the ball period, Lance had I think 4 straight runs. He had a 30-yard run to the left, then a zone read where he kept it for loss of 2, an 8-yard run, and then a 5-yard run. He had 4 straight runs, which is showcasing like he's getting more comfortable because he's not necessarily thinking about taking off versus passing. He's just doing whatever the best read is on the situation, and so that was a nice sight to see because you haven't always seen that. And one other thing I wanted to mention is, let's see, let's get to it. Something consistently that I saw today, even if they didn't amount to many yards, the 49ers rushed the ball on first down a ton. So in previous days, some of the reasons. Remember, what did I say today? The 49ers were able to move the ball consistently down the field. They were able to move the ball as much, and I understand the lack of the top cornerbacks, but they were able to move the ball for first downs and for long gains and things like that. And one thing that I saw today that was different than the other days where the 49ers were a little more stalled, they were running the ball consistently on first down. And while obviously a lot of these gains were 0 yards, 1 yards, maybe even 2 yards, as opposed to the big gains that you expect, the good part about that was that the 49ers establish themselves in the run game. And that just opens up the field, especially when it's working. So today it wasn't necessarily working as much, but imagine a day where it's continuously working. I think that you might have something there with the 49ers running game. So that definitely was a good sight to see. Kyle Shanahan being consistent and going towards the running game a lot more. Now, continuing on, let's go to the wide receivers because the wide receivers were interesting today. There were obviously two big names that continue to pop out. Well, three, in my opinion, actually. First, Brandon Ayuk, two big catches from Trey Lance early. Deebo Samuel had a big catch from Trey Lance early. And then Deebo Samuel had a really nice 8-yard out from Trey Lance as well. So those were some good plays overall from the receivers. Ayuk, Deebo, think they're both getting more acclimated into the offense. And I like that Kyle Shanahan isn't having Deebo just consistently run go routes. I like how he's getting back into a variety of routes for Deebo Samuel to win and getting him more comfortable in the offense. 49er Jeff asked about Deebo. Did he take plays out of the backfield? Today he did not, but he has in previous days. He took an end around reverse 2 days ago on Sunday, and then he took he had a fake on a George Kittle pitch on another day. So he's taken reps out of it, but I don't know if we'll see that much of Deebo Samuel out of the backfield until week 1. I don't think he'll run that much in preseason for sure, at least running the football wise. But I think in the practices heading into week 1, you might see a little bit more of that in the install. But the good thing is, given the depth that we have on this team, you won't necessarily have to rely on that, although it's an added asset. Sticking with the wide receivers, Rayray Mccloud continues to be one of those guys. He had 3 catches consecutively today, and McLeod is just a guy that the quarterbacks like to target as a safety blanket. He continues to have pretty solid performances. One of the more consistent receivers. He's been definitely more consistent than Jawan Jennings, who was a little more quiet again today. Had 1 catch overall, but also like 2 targets. One was a PBU, another was the catch. But he's been fairly quiet so far in training camp, and so I think Rayray Mccloud has at least put himself in a strong position to get an extended role than what was previously expected. I don't know if he'll start. I'm not going to say that, but I think McLeod has looked pretty good so far this entire offseason. Malik Turner as well continues to show out. He had a 40-yard catch today, and he continues to have like 1 or 2 good plays a day despite having limited time. While Danny Gray dropped the pass today on a good pass from Brock Purdy on a 3rd down, Malik Turner caught a 40-yard pass from Brock Purdy today, getting open on the defense, and not might, I think he has been the better receiver of the 2 in training camp so far. So if the 49ers carry 6 receivers, he'd be my favorite to make that 6th spot alongside Tay Martin, who had another nice, great catch in one-on-ones. But if the 49ers carry 5, I wouldn't be surprised if he sneaks onto the practice squad and is an elevation for us because he's been pretty efficient as a receiver so far. Moving on to the tight ends. Tight ends got a bunch of action today. Tight ends, a lot of them caught touchdown passes today. Troy Fumagalli caught a touchdown pass from Nate Sudfeld. I think, who else? Tanner Hudson, I think, got a touchdown pass as well. And who was the third touchdown? Let me see. Who was it? One sec. So yeah, Fumagalli got one. Oh, Willie Sneed. Oh, I forgot to mention Willie Sneed with the receivers. Sneed actually had a touchdown catch today. I don't think he'll make it really out of the backfield necessarily. I mean, out of the group necessarily, but that was a pretty cool play. He got a touchdown, but Fumagalli had a touchdown pass today. Tanner Hudson had one, and I think those were the two touchdowns to tight ends today. Some extra action, and I think that those two names are names that could be competing for that tight end spot. So cool to see that they were able to kind of get acclimated in the red zone and both made nice plays. Hudson's touchdown was on a slant from Purdy. Fumagalli jumped up and made the catch for his touchdown from what do you call it? Not Brock Purdy, but Nate Sudfeld. So good day for those two tight ends. Tight end 2 is still. Let's focus. Perfect. Tight end 2 is still questionable right now behind George Kittle. And I think that these two names could be some of the guys. Fumagalli has gotten first team reps. He got first team reps on Sunday. Tyler Croft did as well, but his name wasn't mentioned much today. And so this could be an interesting battle for sure. And these two names are some that you definitely want to keep your eye on. Fumagalli has been a fairly consistent player. He's gotten like a catch in a way in a day per day. And so he's been a guy who, in my opinion, right now is a sleeper, especially based on his previous production where he hasn't necessarily been that efficient in the NFL. Moving on to the offensive line, I talked about them a good amount about how it's consistency, but I didn't think they looked bad overall. I think the offensive line is going to continue to grow. I honestly think this is going to be an average to an above average offensive line in the NFL, somewhere in that 12 to 16 range overall. And so I think the offensive line is going to grow. It'll take a little bit, especially once they name a center and finally get along with that center really being that guy so far. But I think right now the 49ers offensive line is in good shape. We got to mention in the backup range, Jason Poe. Jason Poe continues to win his one-on-one reps. A great day for Jason Poe in the one-on-one game, and he's making a strong case for a 53-man roster spot. I think if Jalen Moore will have to be carried on the IR, but the 49ers could carry 9 offensive linemen and only 5 receivers, and I think Poe could slowly beat out McKivitz for that spot, even though McKivitz has the flexibility to play tackle. Poe, very interesting guy. I think he could be potentially in line for a roster spot come cut down day. John asked, does Lance still have somewhat of a rocket arm throw, hard to catch passes? Maybe that's why Juwan isn't good. I actually don't think so. I think Lance has really, really gotten that touchdown. And I mean, obviously he'll continue to work on it, but I don't think his balls are coming out too hard anymore. I think he's been able to get it on the money with good touch. The only thing is, can he be accurate enough now that he's kind of fixed that in a way? Because the accuracy has wavered at times. Sometimes it's been too far outside the numbers. Sometimes it's been an overthrow. So can he be accurate while maintaining the touch? That's the big question with Trey Lance. All right, one sec. Perfect. Let's go on to the defense today to wrap up today's episode. Starting with the defensive line, Javon Kinlaw was out there again. And he had a very interesting rep. He didn't really play much in one-on-ones, but the one rep that I saw of him went up against Aaron Banks, and he used a move he used earlier last week, and it worked. It was the long arm, where Kinlaw essentially just pushed him back with his brute strength while being able to disrupt the passing lane straight down the middle. So a good rep by Javon Kinlaw, and that's a very interesting thing. And so he's a guy who I think could potentially continue to, ramp up. He's been getting a good amount of reps. And so good job, Javon Kinlaw there. Good rep there. And I think he'll continue to get acclimated into this defense overall as the 49ers get closer and closer to the regular season. He might have another rest day tomorrow. We'll see. He's had 2 so far, but didn't have a rest day today coming off the off day. Maybe he has one tomorrow, but if not, I'll keep a close eye on him. But solid rep. I still think he's fairly raw, honestly, in rush or pass rushing, but he's a guy who looks good so far, moves pretty good, and he's a guy who continues to get ramped up. Kevin Givens had a solid day as well today. I think he got 2 TFLs in the run game. He was in the backfield in the run game a solid amount, which hadn't been something that I had seen from him before. I'd seen him a lot in the pass rushing game, but being a smaller defensive tackle, I hadn't seen him necessarily in the run game as much. So it was nice to see that he had beaten his defender for 2 run stuffs on the day. Solid day for Kevin Givens. And then the other guy I want to mention, who looking at the one-on-ones, talking about a couple of the edge rushers, Kamoko Toure, his inside move is just lethal. Kamoko Toure continues to utilize that inside move where he fakes outside and just beats guys inside, which has been a great move for Kamoko Toure. I think that he is going to have a solid role. If he's able to stay on the field, I think he could be a nice one-trick pony for the 49ers this year. When that move gets figured out, we'll see if he's able to adjust. But as of now, that move has been pretty good against the uh, exterior offensive linemen, the tackles. The other guy, Drake Jackson, he had one good rep today in that he beat or ooh, let me think. I know Jackson had a couple of good or a couple of one-on-one reps. Jackson continues to not necessarily be consistent in the one-on-ones. He's also raw as a pass rusher like Javon Kinlaw, but he's able to utilize his speed and get to the edge on certain occasions. So that's a good sign from Drake Jackson, who might also be in line for an extended role like a Kamoko Toure, like a Charles Manny Hugh in 2022. Looking forward, let's see. Anything else I want to cover with these guys? Huh. O'Menahue looked good as well again today. I mean, that's kind of I said it earlier during the O'Menahue question. He won a one-on-one rep against Alfredo Gutierrez, won another one-on-one rep in general. He continues to look pretty solid. I think he's kind of the next man up behind the regular starting offensive line or defensive line with Javon Kinlaw there. Defensive line, it's fairly good, and I think the depth honestly is the big part. Obviously, cut down day will be very interesting given the amount of bodies that we have and how many do we carry on the 53-man roster. That's a good question to ask. But overall, defensive line, this depth is looking really good, and there are several players that continue to stand out. Moving on to the linebackers. Linebackers obviously had a very busy day on what was it on Sunday. They had 3 interceptions on Sunday. Today, back to the starting linebackers. Aziz Al-Shire was out there, as well as Drake Greenlaw. Both of them who had rest days on Sunday were back out there and playing on Tuesday. So the starting linebackers were there today, and they were also a factor in the run game. Hence why the inside zone didn't necessarily work as well as opposed to Sunday and days before. That could be definitely a reason. Linebacker, one of the stack positions on the entirety of this defense, especially with those 9 guys, where all of them in a way can make some sort of claim to be on the roster, on the 53-man roster, that is. Solid day for the linebackers overall. I think that they continue to be one of the better groups on the team, especially with Fred Warner. And as always, Dre Greenlaw has been the guy who has stayed on in nickel packages. The last group of the day is the secondary. And so when we talk about the secondary, um, first we got to talk about how Emmanuel Mosley and Travarius Ward were not there today, which meant Ambry Thomas, Kadar Holman, Diomedal Lenore, Tariq Castro Fields, backup linebackers all got extended reps against the starters on offense for the 49ers, like Brandon Ayuk and Travarius Ward. Hence, probably why the completion percentages and the throws and the amount of separation increased today as opposed to the other days. But I thought it was okay because it was a good day for Trey Lance, and it was in a way a day to get his confidence back up. So a great great day for the offense. Defense obviously had players out, hence why they weren't necessarily at full strength and looked a little different today. But overall, it was a good day for both sides. I think the secondary continues to look fine. Talano Hufunga recorded a PBU. Womack continues to get second team snaps. Some of these storylines can just continue to unfold. And so we'll see how it ends up going. The 49ers, the one thing I do want to say that they do is they exchange like different teams of all three levels on defense with different looks. Like today you saw the starting safeties and walkthroughs be the backup safeties and walkthroughs, while Tarvarius Moore and George Odom ended up starting. And you kind of see these different things because even though with the linebackers, you had Curtis Robinson and the second team out there with the first team defensive line. So there's a lot of flip flopping overall, but secondary looked fine today. There were several plays where also they could just held up in coverage, especially in the red zone, which was impressive given how little of the distance the 49ers had to go. But overall takeaways from today: offense looked great. Trey Lance yet secondary without a couple of guys. Defense still got pressure there at times, and it was just one of the better days of training camp overall, despite being a bit of a shorter day. I think that's kind of going to cover it for me today. Be sure to be on the lookout for 49ers Web Zone. That is where I write and post all my written content. So be sure for an in-detail breakdown over there as well. And thank you guys so much for appreciating the content, for tuning in today. I think that that's going to be it for me. Subscribe to the channel. Like if you are new, and I'm going to drop the link one last time if you guys have it in you and are I'd heavily appreciate it if you guys could hit that donate button and just share a bit if you potentially can. But overall, what I really like is all of you guys just being in here with me, being able to chop it up. Chat was always live as usual. Great job there. And we will be back tomorrow with the last day of training camp. That's going to be really hard, but last day of training camp, back tomorrow.